Hi everyone, welcome to the Toon Review Thursday Night Live. I've got a couple of guests coming on in a minute, PD Proudluck and Sav Mondo. You'll know Sav from Steve Wraith's Ladies Night and very popular on Twitter. And obviously PD Proudluck comes on with me on a Monday night for the Four Horsemen of the Toon. We're just going to be talking general Newcastle United tonight, what you think of manager rumours, transfers, anything like that. So do put your comments in the live chat and we'll answer them as best we can. I'll bring the guys in now. Good evening.
How are you all doing?
Are you okay?
Yes, very well, thanks.
Good stuff. Right, there we go. We've got some viewers already, so I expect comments coming in already. Sav, just to quickly ask you what you thought about the Arsenal game.
Depressing. Do you know what? I stuck a fiver on us to win. I do it every time because I think we've got to win eventually. And, the odds will be so big by then, I'll be, rolling in money. But I thought after watching this against Arsenal in the FA Cup, I thought, do you know what? I think, they only beat us in extra time because we ran out of steam. I thought, we may grab a scrappy goal here through the ball hitting someone's body part and bouncing into the goal by default. And I actually, I was thinking that Arsenal aren't great at the moment. Like you watch them, they're not amazing. They're not the Arsenal they used to be.
Yeah.
So I stuck a fiver on us and we were shocking. I don't know what sort of system he's trying to play. It didn't work. There was no fluidity. We can't make more than 3 or 4 passes before giving the ball away. Our midfield is non-existent. And you know what? I'm surprised that the goal, if it weren't for Darlow, I think the goal score would have been much more. I was a little bit disappointed, Darlow. I don't want to pick on him because he's done a fantastic job, but his distribution wasn't great against Arsenal. But no, I thought that it was just same old really. I don't really know what part of the gloves being off and, Steve Bruce being back in control for his first game after 18 months. I didn't quite get where that was, but no, just disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't see us. I can't see us winning at the minute. I mean, Peter McGinn's out on Saturday night. That's a bonus for us because obviously he pulls the strings in midfield for Villa. But can you honestly see us getting anything now? He's out.
No, on the current form we are on, massively no chance at this rate. If they're going to have Grealish starting and Watkins, they're two very dangerous players.
Yeah.
And if we are not on my game, they're going to really have us completely.
I mean,
I see where the next wins is coming from as well.
Yeah, I did my preview earlier on, which I've just released this morning, and I said that the game could be won in midfield, Sav, given that they've got Barkley and Grealish. Would you play 2 defensive midfielders, i.e. Hayden and Matty Longstaff, or would you play someone a bit more attacking in midfield?
I think Hayden and Matty Longstaff, from what I've seen, because I think it's saying 7 different pairings in midfield Steve Bruce has tried.
Yeah.
I think Hayden and Matty Longstaff for me were the ones that worked better than other pairings. I don't see what Jeff Hendrick brings, whether or not it's bad management or whatever. I just don't see it. Sean, for me, has been off the boil for a long time now. So I would pick those 2 if I was picking, just because I think Villa will try and run at us. And I think we're going to need to be on the defensive, not all sat at the back like we like to do, but just a bit more in that midfield because our midfield is our main weakness.
Yeah.
So, I think that for me, those 2 would be the 2 that I'd pick.
Just obviously a little bit of news coming out of the club yesterday was Kieron Clark, Peter, signing a 2-year extension. What do you make of that?
I'm absolutely delighted with that. I think he's done very well. I think he has done very, very well. Okay, last couple of games he's been sloppy, but since Bruce has brought him back in the side, I've really been impressed with the lad. I thought he was going to be gone after Rafa's last season, but no, Bruce wanted to keep the faith in him, which I give him credit for, even though I still don't like the guy, and I still want him out of the football club. Yeah, but I really like. I've been impressed with Clark, and he's nearly have been superb as well, and he's deserved that contract extension as well massively.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Sav, those of you that do know you're on NUFC Matters on the Ladies' Night know you have a bit of a thing for Fabian Schär, and obviously he's out of contract in the summer. What do you think of Kieron Clark re-signing? And do you think Shah will be re-signing, or do you think he'll be off in the summer?
I was really happy that Kieron Clark re-signed, to be honest. And I think it was a shame because the Twitter page tagged him in the fact that he had re-signed his contract. I think he's been quite good for us since he's come back. He's actually surprised me because I thought that he'd just sort of fade into the background and leave. And I think since he's been brought back in, he's done quite a good job there. I thought it was a shame when they tagged him in because I think there's a lot of hostility towards Steve Bruce. And a lot of it's like, oh, a mediocre signing again. And I don't know what people are expecting. You know, we haven't got millions to, you know, spend out on some top quality, you know, players. And as, you know, where he stands on his ability, I think actually for us, he's quite a solid signing to re-sign him. So I felt that was a little bit unfortunate. I just hope that he doesn't read anything like that. Yeah, Fabian Schär, I'm not sure he will re-sign. It will be a sad day. I'll be dressed all in black. I'll have my veil on and stuff, you know. But I think that, you know, I know that obviously I'm a little bit biased. I think recently he's really picked up for us. He did go off the boil, I've got to admit, for quite a while. After Steve Bruce came in, but the last few games that he's played, you know, he's off the line clearance and you know, he seems to be, you know, getting that motivation back that seemed to have dropped off before. Whether or not he's picking up because he wants, you know, to go somewhere else, so you know, he's picking up on his motivation and things, I'm not sure. But that after match interview he did where he basically stood there and went, oh, you know, we're all for, and you know, I won't swear, but I think that showed someone who was very unhappy with where he is and what's going on. And, you know, I don't know if Bruce has lost the dressing room, but it wouldn't surprise me of reactions like that.
I mean, we've sorry, go on, Sav.
It's sad because, you know, actually when he, first was with us, he was really good and quite solid and everyone was clearly quite happy, and now they just all look miserable. They do.
And I mean, I have actually said in some of my reviews I've done that Shah has definitely improved. I don't know whether his head is somewhere else at the minute, whether he's got anything in the pipeline to move. I don't know. May well happen. Certainly Clark for me has been one of our better players this season. I think he deserves the extension. But then you've got to think of everyone else that's out of contract, and you start thinking, are they playing for a new contract or are they playing because they're now in the shop window? So it'd be interesting to see. Just some of the comments that have come in. Chris Thompson, who is a Leeds fan, hence the marching on together logo at the end there. He does follow. He's a good lad. Good evening, Chris. First time I've seen you relaxed. That's because I haven't watched Newcastle United. I'm a completely much more chilled out person than I am on my reviews after I've watched Newcastle United play 90 minutes of football. And I'm sure the guys with me tonight would both agree that, you know, when we don't watch Newcastle, we don't have to drink, we don't have to shout and swear. And it's very, very different compared to watching 90 minutes. I mean, Sav, I don't know whether you've sort of seen any of our sort of shows or anything, but the last one that Peter did on his review, he had a tactics sheet in front of him and got in quite a temper and pretended he was Steve Bruce with a tactics sheet and just ripped it up and just threw it over his head.
I could imagine him being like that anyway, to be honest, Steve.
How have you coped with watching Newcastle over the last few months?
Well, I've been sponsored to do Dry January, and I'm not going to lie, during lockdown last year, I was like, I used it as just an excuse to be drunk all the time. So actually, you know, I was quite mellow for all the matches because I could be. This month, however, it's sort of hit a bit harder. And I've got to admit, you know, that last match against Arsenal, I become one of those people, and I've never really been like it, who was sat on my phone instead of watching it because it was just so uncomfortable just to sit there and witness it whilst, you know, not having a drink. But yeah, I've got, you know, it's bad because the last couple of matches we've started, it's been uncomfortable from the beginning. Whereas before that, we'd have like 10 minutes where we played sort of semi-decent and then we'd drop off. So it'd warm you in before it let you down. And now it's just straight into negative football from the kickoff. And I find that really hard to watch, especially, you know, like when you're passionate about the club and you really want them to do well. And you've got Steve Bruce giving it all the big I am, oh, this is going to be different. And you know it's not going to be right, but a little part of you wants to believe actually he's going to make a change this time. Something's going to switch up, and then it doesn't. It's just so disappointing to sit and watch week after week. And afterwards, I just have to kind of forget it all. And then I have to remember it for ladies' night on a Monday. And I'm like, afterwards, I'm like, I want to clear that from my mind, but actually, I've got to remember it. So it's like, but
it's a bit bizarre, isn't it? I mean, we have sort of the last few. Well, I mean, the last few games, I know the ones you mean, where we start off well, and it looks like, you know, first 5-10 minutes, and you think, oh, hang on a minute, we're actually we're in this game here. But the last few have just been. I mean, I must admit, when I saw the team sheet against Arsenal, it was sort of listening to Steve Bruce's gloves are off quotes and all of this, and then I thought he's put a 4-4-2 out there. He must be going attacking, and then the game kicks off, and it's the usual of sitting behind the ball. I mean, Peter, we've spoke about this before. It just drives you insane, doesn't it?
Well, obviously it does. I mean, just playing this dross football, it's so depressing. You can't enjoy it. Yeah. Now, when you go into a game, you're dreading it before kickoff already. And it shouldn't be like that.
I mean, I don't remember the last time that I actually, you know, woke up on a morning and thought, oh, get in, Newcastle playing today. That's what I've always been like all through my life, you know. When Newcastle have been playing, it's been like, you know, especially when we could go to games, it was like we'd get up and, you know, you couldn't wait to, you know, if you were getting the taxi or the bus or the train or whatever it was to the ground and all of that kind of stuff. And it's just all been, obviously, COVID's taken a lot of that away. But now I've got to sit in front of the TV for 90 minutes and watch utter dross. I mean, Sav, it's getting to that stage now where a lot of Newcastle fans are disheartened.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I don't look forward to match day anymore. Like, I actually dread it. I prefer it when we're not playing, because then you haven't got the stress in the back of your mind that you're going to look at that table and we've dropped again or people are catching us up.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's just the same thing. Timing, I don't understand, because on paper, yes, we haven't got the best players in the Premier League. I can appreciate that. But on paper, we don't have the worst. And they're not being coached, or something's not working that they can play to the best of their ability, or even anywhere near the best of their ability at the moment.
Yeah.
They all look demotivated. They look like they can't be asked. When Ryan Fraser got sent off the other week, he was borderline laughing. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine, you know, doing that in front of another manager? Like, and it was like it didn't matter to him. Like, he was quite happy because he could just leave. And I think that's just a completely negative attitude for players to be having. And actually, you know, I'd hope someone brought him up on that. I'd bet no one did, but he should have been brought up on that, because that is not what you're out there for. You should be going out there to win and to try, not to be, you know, have that sort of attitude quite publicly and openly on the pitch. And but I find that is throughout the squad now. It seems to be like a you know, it's spreading throughout everyone now, and there's not one person really. I mean, apart from like the exception of, say, Miggy last match against Arsenal, that looks like they're going out there and really, really trying to the best of their ability. They just look like they can't be asked.
I mean, it's a shame, because we've discussed this many times, just the fact that Miggy just doesn't have a smile on his face anymore, and it's so sad to see. You know, even when he was missing chances, he would still turn away and run off and smile as if to say, oh, I'll get you next time, kind of thing. It's just not happening anywhere. Dave Harrison, good evening to you. You've put a question there. Simon Jordan roped into us. Fair comment or just a wind-up? Did any of you guys listen to Simon Jordan's comments on TalkSport regarding Steve Bruce?
Yes,
Peter?
I haven't seen it, because was that today?
No, I think it was yesterday, wasn't it? He came out on TalkSport and basically blamed the fans for.
Don't they?
Yeah, exactly. He was, though, Peter, wasn't he? He was blaming the fans and just saying that it was our fault mainly because we're putting pressure on Steve Bruce, etc.
Oh, absolute touch. This is the same guy who said that Arsenal Fan TV should be closed down.
Yeah.
It said fans shouldn't have an opinion like that. I mean, what is this bloke on half the time? You just wonder, because he talks that so much rubbish. And because, does he not watch us week in, week out? The reason why we're frustrated is because we're having to watch dross, Brucey style football, dinosaur football every single time. It's depressing. You're sick to the back teeth of it. You can't enjoy it. That is the thing. And there's no improvement. And it's the same excuses every time from it.
Yeah, it's like most of them, though, isn't it? Most of the pundits, most of the media, they haven't watched us all season, and it gets to the stage where we as fans always seem to get the blame. But it's unfair, because all we as fans want, Sav, is a team that tries and a team that goes on the pitch to try and win a football match.
Yeah, it's exactly the kind of thing that I think, what annoys me about it is, like you said, they don't watch every match in, match out. And because it's not, their club, they obviously don't have the passion behind them that people, who that is their club have. And it's really frustrating to see it. And especially as people that you sort of deem could be like quite close to Steve Bruce outside anyway, will stand there and blame the fans. But what they don't see is, we've got Steve Bruce, whilst fans aren't allowed into the stadium, blaming fans for bad performances, which I never really understand. And it's got to a point where I think actually it's probably better for Steve Bruce at the moment that they, fans are out of the stadiums, because I think actually he may have been pushed out the door by now. And he certainly wouldn't have been able to have sat there and made half those comments. And then you get pundits that sit there and defend him. And that just riles people more, because you're like, hold on a moment, because actually, he's producing this dross football. We're not happy with it. And then on top of it, he's blaming us for it. And then on top of it, you're going to blame us for it as well. And it just riles people up. It's really unnecessary. And sometimes I feel like they do it like sort of in a trolling type way, just to wind people up. And that really drives me mad. I just wish that people, if they want to comment, watch every single match in, match out. Well, they'd be asleep. But, if they want to do that, then fair enough. But if not, just keep it stum.
It's like the likes of Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton when they were sort of goading the Newcastle fans. A lot of people said, it's just to get phone calls, etc. But to be honest, I thought it was disgusting the way they went on. I mean, they're supposed to be professional pundits, and they were acting like children. Chris Thompson says, hands on heart, guys, how many points do you think we might get in the next 5 games? Personally, I can't see us getting anything in the next 3. I'm sort of only looking at the next 3 simply because I think that's how many games Steve Bruce has left. If we get nothing from these 3 games, I think he's undoubtedly going to be sacked. So I'm kind of looking at 3 games, Peter. The end of January, would you say that that's his cut-off point?
Yeah, massively. I can't see us getting anything out the next 3 games as well. Villa, we're going to lose. Leeds, even though we're playing at home again, they're doing pretty well. So again, with the way we're playing, and Everton, we're record down Goodison's pretty shocking anyway lately.
Yeah, it's terrible. Sav, I know obviously the question there is 5 games, but can you see us getting anything before the end of January? I know we've got the game at Villa Park, then we've got Leeds at home, who destroyed us obviously at Elland Road, and then we go to Everton. It's not exactly a good run when you're desperate for points.
No, and to be honest, I can't even see us scoring a goal, because that seems to be a difficulty at the moment as well. No, I personally can't see it. And what really frustrates me, especially about Everton, is that bloody Pickford. If I have to see smug face because they beat us, I will be fuming. But no, I just it's our our attacking quality. There isn't any, and I just can't see us being able to get forward and actually put the ball in the back of the net to be able to get anything. And sometimes our defence is really questionable, letting players in behind the defence. So no, I just can't see it personally.
I mean, that comment there. I mean, Chris, obviously a Leeds fan. If it helps, I can't believe how long Bruce has been at your club. I'm agreeing with you, Sav. I think if fans were in the stadium. I think we said this last week, Peter. Anyway, if fans were in the stadium, I think it would have been that toxic by now that Mike Ashley would have pulled the trigger and he would have been gone. I can't see how he would have been able to. Certainly, looking back to McLaren's end days at the club and things like that, it was just toxic inside the stadium. And I think Steve Bruce would have gone by now had the pressure been on him by the supporters. Good evening, Valerie. Hope you're okay. Gordon Redpath says, my team versus Villa will be Darlow, Clark, Dummett, Shaw, Lascelles, Hayden, Miggy, Longstaff, ASM, Wilson, Gale. It's an interesting lineup. Is that 5? Is that 4 or 5 at the back? The 4 at the back. The problem is, where's your fullbacks there, Gordon? I know Clark can play at fullback, but Dummett there as well. Sorry, yes. So it's going to be sort of Clark and Dummett. So Clark right back, Dummett left back, Shaw, Lascelles. I don't know. I think Shaw for me is probably the one that would miss out in that lineup because he's clearly not first choice with Mr. Bruce Sav.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, do you know where is Fernandez at the moment? Is he on COVID?
Well, we were discussing this the other day. Fernandez apparently had a knock for the Arsenal game, but if you look at the players that weren't involved at all, you've got Gale, who's out of contract in the summer. Fernandez out of contract in the summer, and Shah out of contract in the summer. I mean, I don't know whether there's anything to read into that, but we mentioned it the other night, and it's maybe a thing that he's saying he's going to do things his way, so he's clamping down on the players that aren't wanting to stay long term. He's leaving them out. I mean, is he or isn't he? That's the question. But you know, the reason he wasn't involved with Arsenal is because he apparently had a knock.
Well, this is the thing with it. It's the lack of communication from the club and from Steve Bruce to the fans. That is, I think, you know, it's a real toxic way to behave, you know, to the supporters. And it's a shame, really, because, well, I don't think it's going to change till Mike Ashley leaves, to be fair. I think that's just going to be how it is until, you know, things right up the top change. Yeah,
definitely. Peter, what do you think of that lineup from Gordon there? Would that... I don't think ASM's ready to play yet. I mean, as Steve Bruce said last weekend, he's got at least 2 weeks left, hasn't he?
Yeah. You don't want to be risking players back that have been out for a canny while.
Yeah.
We've done this before, and it's massively backfired, and they're out again. That is the problem. So I wouldn't be risking ASM back in the moment. He said Longstaff, Matty, yes, I would have of course, in the CM. If it's Sean, that's a big no from me. Unfortunately, the bloke is way off form at the minute. But I look at that, there's no fullbacks. Who's playing at right back there?
Well, he'd probably play Kieron Clark at right back. Because, I mean, Clarkey obviously can play right back, left back, centre back. He is sort of that kind of player, but I think his best position is centre back. And I think, given the situation we're in now, Manquillo for me has been our best right back this season. And
I don't know why he's been frozen out. I think he's improved massively at the club, and he's been a bit frozen out. I want to see the lad back in.
I don't understand what he did wrong, to be honest, because he, by far the best right back we've got at the club at the minute, and he's been frozen out. Sav, can you see any reason for that?
The only thing I can think of is, obviously, you know, the rumour mill goes round, but if Steve Bruce has lost the dressing room somewhere again, you know, amongst players, and that's the only reason I can see for it, because actually I agree with you, Manquillo is the best at right back for us. Yet he doesn't even get a look in now, and I think that's really questionable. But it's the same with several players throughout the squad, and how he's setting up now and who he's choosing. Like, you know, Almiron was frozen out for a while, wasn't he? And then he's sort of sudden. But I think he's only probably been brought back in because of COVID and injuries and who's available sometimes. But yeah, I just think it's just that age-old lack of communication. You know, I think they questioned him the other day, and he said, you know, what goes on in the dressing room stays in the dressing room, but nothing's wrong, which doesn't really make sense. That's like a double, you know.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that when he came out and said that no harsh words were said in the dressing room. I mean, you know, given how us fans were feeling, I think we would have had some harsh words for them players had we been in the dressing room. Jason, good evening, mate. We all know what will end up happening. We will bring no one in. The window will close. A week later, Bruce will get sacked. New manager enters and we get relegated. When will the nightmare end? Peter?
Hopefully soon. We can't persist with this manager anymore. He's terrible. He's woeful. The performances on the pitch lately have shown it. The teams he's also managed in the Premier League, they've shown it as well. Hopefully,
it's just dreadful. It's just awful. It's just bad. It's terrible. I mean, I can't see the nightmare ending soon, but I think he clearly hasn't learned any lessons from when he sacked McLaren. He waited far too long to sack McLaren. He ends up sacking him too late. Rafa comes in, and obviously it was too late for Rafa to save us. And the worst thing is now is if we go down this season, we ain't coming straight back up. James Ritchie, good evening, mate. Score predictions for Villa. Sav, I'll start with you on that one.
Oh, God. I think they'll probably have us about 2-3-0. Right. I just can't see us getting forward to get, you know, even the odd one back, to be fair. I just think they're going to run at us, even though, you know, they're missing in midfield. I just can't see it.
Peter?
I'm looking towards a 2-0 of Villa as well. Again, I just can't see another win or any improvement at this moment of time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going for 2 or 3-0 as well. I mean, that's terrible, isn't it, when we're all predicting a 2-3-0 loss for playing Aston Villa. You know, I mean, that's how far we've really fallen. That's no disrespect to Villa, because Villa have been really good this season, and Villa are an ambitious club, which is something we can't put our name next to, because we're just still stagnating. We're heading into the wrong place in the division, and for some reason, the hierarchy at Newcastle don't seem to realise how serious it is, because points will be made up very, very quickly by the teams beneath us, especially when they all play each other, and then they've got to play us. So they'll be up for it whenever they take us on. So there's not much to look forward to. Tom Dixon says, what sort of loan signings do you think Newcastle will sign? Sav?
None. I just can't see us doing anything in this transfer window. I just can't see it. We need a decent attacking midfielder, in my opinion. I'd love to see another, sort of decent striker. But I just can't see us. I think we seem to be, like you said, we're stagnating at the moment, and there seems to be no real business going on. Yeah, we're re-signing, we're extending people's contracts and things. But apart from that, there was that thing over the on Twitter the other day, wasn't there, where someone had recorded over the top of St James's Park, someone walking along the grass.
We spoke about that on Monday. Yeah,
oh my God, I mean,
that could have been anybody.
I was like, who is that? Like, who wears those sort of boots? It gets you like that. You just get completely paranoid now. You just want something to happen. I really wanted Jetro Williams to come back. We all
want him back.
I thought he was a dead cert because he had all these cryptic little tweets going on, the little starey eyes. And then the other day, I noticed he said to someone, because they said, you'll be coming back to Newcastle soon or something along those lines. And he went, well, that's the first I've heard of it. And I thought, oh, well, that's that then, because obviously if he's saying that, then it's not happening. But it's just a shame. We just seem to we do things too slowly. And it's like the likes of, say, Barkley and people like that we sort of look at and then just don't move fast enough at. And then we just completely miss out. So,
it says something when Barkley goes to Villa. A few years back when we were, a decent size and a decent club, he would have, if Newcastle had gone in to loan him, he would have taken us over Aston Villa any day of the week. But that's the thing I just said about Aston Villa showing some ambition, wanting to sort of move the club forward, which is, for me, I think we came to the conclusion that it might be St Maximin walking around St James's Park, just talking to a reporter. So realistically, it could be literally anybody. It could be a groundsman getting to know the stadium and getting to know the ground. It's too far away to even see who it might be. Peter, any thoughts on loan signings?
Again, I don't think I can see us signing anyone at this football club in this January transfer window, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's no real progression of talks of anyone being coming. You get names mentioned, but it's quiet, doesn't it? Already. Yeah. So I can't see anyone, unfortunately.
No. Liam says it's a must-win game on Saturday. I think you're right. I think more so for the manager. We saying, given that he might have a time scale of end of January, it could be that if we get a good thumping on Saturday, he could go then. Or then we've got Leeds on Tuesday night, he could go then. Mike Ashley can't risk any longer. He's got a lot of money invested here. The takeover could go through. He would lose so much money through that if that was to happen. Yes, he'd still make a profit if we went into the Championship and we were bought, but it wouldn't be anywhere near the money that he's asking for now. And I can't believe that a businessman like Mike Ashley, who's made as much money as he has through clearly being ruthless, is actually going to lose that much money over something as silly as not sacking a manager when it needs to happen. It's crazy for me. Brian, good evening, mate. I'm a Brucey, get me out of here. I think everybody is. I can't see where we get any points playing like this. Well, nobody can, and that's what we're saying. The football is just dire. Lascelles came out with the usual cliche after the Arsenal game and said, we'll look to put it right and gain some confidence for the next game. Where does the confidence come from, Sav, if they can't win games?
Well, exactly. And to be fair, sometimes when I listen to, that, especially at the sales interview, it's like it's scripted. It's like the same thing. It's same thing every time. It's like, he's starting to sound like Steve Bruce. We're going to roll our sleeves up and we're going to get going on the next game. And then you think, right, like I used to think, something's going to happen next time. And then you very quickly get used to the fact that actually that is just chat. It doesn't mean anything. There's no confidence in them. I'd love to see what Steve Bruce does at the training ground all week. I really would, because he goes on about this progression which never seems to have happened. So what has he been doing for 18 months? If anything, certain players have regressed, not gone the opposite way. So I think the lack of confidence is a huge thing. I mean, there was that match where it took us like 3 minutes to take a free kick because we couldn't decide if we was going to put players, you know, in front of the ball or stick them back. And we shouldn't be doing things like that. You know, they should be confident in their choices of what they're going to be doing and know how they're set up to play. And you know, it's like things like Shelvey. It was 2 corners, was it, where he couldn't beat the first man against Arsenal? That's shocking. You know, that's just textbook. All the money he's paid, he should be able to do that. Just take him off of corners, take him off the pitch. I don't even care. But I just think that, you know, I can't see this negative style changing anytime soon as long as Steve Bruce is there. I just think he's just, even listening to his press conferences, it's all very negative. Yeah,
well, I mean, he's got his press conference tomorrow. I'm just not going to pay any attention to it. I basically just pick off what he said when it comes onto Twitter. You know, the journalists put on little quotes from him because it's just when the man talks now, it makes me frustrated and angry because he's just so cliched with everything he comes out with. It's a repeat of last week, and it just goes on and on. Chris Thompson there said this actually resides with me when the early 90s for us. So I had 16 years of not wanting to know who Leeds were playing next. Now I'm loving every minute of it, win, lose or draw. You know, that's how we felt in the 90s with Keegan. You know, it didn't matter who we were playing or what the score was. It was still exciting to watch, Peter.
Oh, massively it was. Back Return of the Entertainers back in them days. They were great days to watch.
I think it's such a shame that we're in that position now, and that's why I do enjoy watching Leeds because, you know, win, lose or draw, there's still exciting football to watch, which we just don't have.
Is really lethal.
Yep. Daniel Ford says Steve Bruce is the worst manager in the Premier League. That's been proved numerous times. His stats back that up as well. It's not like he can turn around and say, well, look at me CV. But he did actually say that, didn't he, last week? He said, my CV, I think he called himself average.
Yeah.
I don't understand that comment, Sav.
Yeah, no, I didn't. His press conferences last week were actually quite shocking. And I was reading it thinking, is this a wind-up? Has he actually said this?
Yeah. Because
there was some comments that he made that were just completely inappropriate, that he shouldn't have been making. But he is, in my opinion, he's the most negative manager in the Premier League. I think he's one of the most disliked managers in the Premier League. I see, Chelsea fans moaning about Lampard, and I think, God, you don't even know. Like, you have not lived.
Don't know they've been born, do they? Yeah. What did you think of the rumours about Mark Hughes, Sav?
Do you know what? It depends for me. I think I said this the other night. Depends on what's going on with this takeover behind the scenes, because obviously, we don't know what the people involved know. And I wonder if the reason why Steve Bruce is hanging around as long as he is because it's not too far in the distant future. And is it going to be worth shipping him out and getting a temporary new manager in? And who's going to want to do that realistically, just on a temporary basis, given the state of our football at the moment? You're not going to really find that many. So I kind of just feel that maybe something is still, but this is my hope anyway. Otherwise, it's just as disappointing as ever that something is going on in the background. And it's, that Nick DeMarco, he was quite open that he was a match, and which seemed a bit weird that that was the first, obviously, we've all been analysing bread pictures and things like that, but that was a very definitive, he'd chosen to put that tweet up. And that, to me, kind of showed that there is something going on there. Whether or not it's compensation, I'm not 100% sure. But I just kind of hope that there is a reason why Steve Bruce is still there rather than shipped out the door. Because if Mike does want to make his money for his football club, he's going to not want us to be, like you said, he's not going to want us to be relegated because he's going to lose money. And that doesn't seem like his kind of style to want to do that. So I just kind of am hoping that there's a reason behind it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I can't, like I say, I can't for the life of me imagine Mike Ashley sitting there thinking, well, if we go down, I'll lose maybe 100 million. No way. I cannot see him thinking like that in the slightest. But I said on my show the other day that I'd rather wait. I'd rather hear nothing about the takeover until it was actually announced. The new owner on the pitch. I think I said something along the lines of Amanda Staveley waving a black and white bra above her head, something like that, just to, inspire us. Just keep everything quiet in the background while it goes through, and then Amanda and the rest of the guys on the pitch with the flags and everything and celebrate, and we as fans can then celebrate. I mean, it's a pipe dream at the minute, but you never know. Scout Hood says, will we ever sack Bruce? Because Mike Ashley said that he won't sack a manager until they win a trophy. Well, Steve Bruce clearly is not going to win a trophy at Newcastle United. We can pretty much guarantee that. Paul Jackson says, evening. Over and over again. Oh, the Positive Arsenal channel. Good evening to you. Hope you're okay down there. Evening, guys and girls. Great show. Bruce won't be sacked until you're in the bottom 3 with 5 games left. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, we've every time we speak about Steve Bruce, it's now if he gets fired, if this, if that. It's all ifs, and we just don't know. The thing is, I mean, I spoke about it on the Positive Arsenal channel when I was doing the watch along with them on Saturday. By the way, great YouTube channel if you get subscribed to that. Great guy, good fun, and really good banter. I just think if we get stuck in the bottom 3, we ain't coming out, Peter.
No, definitely not. Well, some of these performances that we've had, and we've lost the game thinking, how are we not in the bottom 3 at this rate? The only thing that's kept out of there is Darlow and Callum Wilson's goals.
Yep.
Highest goal scorer. We're second top goal scorer is Jeff Hendrick with 2.
I know. That's a frightening thought. That is
frightening.
Incredible. Actually, it's incredible when you think about it. That a guy like Jeff Hendrick is our second top scorer, Sav. That just says so much for how our season's gone.
Oh, it's a joke, isn't it? I just think that, I think we started out all right. I'm not going to say that the football was great, but we grinded some results, probably lucky ones. I felt that in the second half against the Everton game, for me, was probably one of our better performances. And, I loved how desperate they were getting at the end, that they threw the goalkeeper up there and Pickford was kicking off on the bench. I think that's probably the highlight of the season for me so far. But it's, as time's gone on, especially the last, few games that we've had, it's been exactly the same. And unfortunately, like there used to be this cycle with Steve Bruce where we would do it, we'd have a run of pretty poor form, bad performances, and then the fans would start getting on him and he'd be like, oh right, that's it, the fans are wrong, and he would kick off a bit and go out there, and the players would come out a little bit half motivated and get a result. And then it would slowly then slip back into the same cycle. Now we're getting the thing where it's sort of cycling round. Everyone's moaning. He's going, all right, gloves are off. That's it. And we're still playing crap. So I just think I think his luck is running out. And I think that's the only reason why we have grinded these results earlier on in the season. And like you said, if we got into I'm actually really concerned for us at the moment, because it gets bad when you start looking at the teams below us and wanting them to lose. And like, I'm started watching their matches and I'm like, don't you dare. Just like,
I know exactly what you mean, because Fulham scored last night. My heart sank. Exactly. They took the lead against Man United. I thought, of all the teams they're going to turn Man United over, that's just our luck, but that's what it's come to. Geordie says, how many games do you think Steve Bruce should have before he is finally given the boot? In my opinion, I think Villa on Saturday is do or die. We've just discussed this there, Geordie. I think it's possible that Villa could be his last game, depending on, the scoreline. I think if we get a humping, then I think he will. It's got to be untenable after that. But I genuinely think he's got 3 games. I think he's got this one, the Leeds game and the Everton game. And if we're still in the same predicament, then he simply has to pull the trigger, because he can't continue in a job when we're getting results like that. Paul Jackson says Savage is an idiot. Yes, we know. Robbie Savage is I don't listen to the guy anymore. They're just wind-ups. Geordie says the likes of Simon John and Savage are all part of the Brucey Brigade. They are, but I think the Brucey Brigade is beginning to have a few cracks in it at the minute. Certainly some of the guys on Talk Sport that were pro-Bruce aren't anymore. They're starting to, mention the football that we're playing, the tactics. So I definitely think that the Bruce Brigade is starting to crack, Pete.
Yeah, by the look of it, I've seen now some of the pundits, even Alan Shearer knows the problem as well. And he's been really pointing the finger at Bruce as to what the hell you're playing at with his style of football.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I mean, after I saw sort of Graham Souness and Roy Keane against Leicester at half-time, they started to question Newcastle's tactics and how the fans feel watching this football week in, week out. Adrian Durham on Talk Sport is now starting to mention all the cracks that are appearing, and also, you know, on the late night shows are starting. Sav, question for you there from Tom Dixon. If Bruce gets sacked, who would you bring in?
Oh, that's so hard because you know, obviously everyone's Eddie Howe, but then you think he got relegated with Bournemouth last season. I'm not sure. I don't know if Newcastle would be a little bit of a too big a club for him to come in. I mean, that being said, I'd probably take anyone over Steve Bruce right now. Yeah. It does get you like that. I just want to see someone get hold of those players and try something different. And you know, if someone was willing to come in and do that, then all fair, you know, fair enough, because it's not working as it is. We're going backwards and we're going to end up relegated unless something changes. So maybe, I think, you know, he seems to be the one that everyone's batting about as would be quite good for us. So possibly, I'd go with Eddie Howe.
Well, for me, Eddie Howe is a possibility. Nigel Pearson for me is also a possibility, simply because of what he did for Leicester when they were in the doldrums. He got them out of relegation trouble. He was horrendously fired there. I think he was very unlucky to lose his job, because the season after they went on and won the Premier League with mostly Pearson's players. So he would be somebody that would come in and wouldn't be the player's friend. He'd be actually the boss, which I think is a problem at the minute, because the players clearly don't see Steve Bruce as their boss at the minute. They see him as a mate, or they just don't respect him full stop. So for me, Nigel Pearson, or if Mark Hughes was to come in, I would give the guy a chance, because, like you say, Sav, he certainly couldn't be as bad as Bruce. I think he did okay at Manchester City. He's had some rough luck with clubs that were getting taken over and going through sort of financial problems when he's managed them. So, but for me, the standout one would probably be Nigel Pearson, but Eddie Howe I certainly wouldn't complain with. Peter, what about yourself? Have you changed your feelings on a new manager yet? Who you think might come in?
I still said I would Eddie Howe a chance. I would definitely still give Pearson a chance. It's Mark Hughes I have that thing. Yeah. If he did win a club, I think I would back him and see how he could do. But I wouldn't be massively convinced. But Pearson or Eddie Howe.
Yeah, it's such a shame though, Sav, when we've got to look at sort of budget market managers like this now, where you think about, you know, had the takeover gone through and all of that, where we could be now, or the managers that the caliber of manager that we've attracted in the past, and now we're kind of shopping in Poundland really for a manager. Yeah,
I know. Do you know what? And it's like when the takeover rumours, you know, all started up last year, and we was all talking about these, you know, top quality players that were getting. Everyone was going, "Oh no, I wouldn't take him. And now we're like, "Oh, actually, we'd just take anyone really now. It's anyone that's half decent." And it's exactly the same with managers. It's a shame that we just can't find someone. I was talking to someone the other day about, say, Sir Bobby Robson, and how when he got sacked, you know, we've never gone back, you know, with the, you know, exception of maybe Rafa. To that sort of, you know, top quality manager who could get the best out of the players. And the thing is, it's easy enough to move them on, but then you don't know what's coming in. You don't know what's going to happen after that. And I
mean, you're right, because the grass isn't always greener on the other side, is it? But when we're talking about Steve Bruce, I think the grass has gone.
It couldn't get much more dead, could it?
Exactly. The grass has pretty much turned to sand, so it couldn't get much darker on Steve Bruce's side. So, you know, we'll see. Dodo Bird comes on. Hi, good evening to you. Question to anybody: is the £350 million, which seems to be banded about as the purchasing price of NUC, actually set in stone? I believe it was, from documents that certainly came out to the public about it. I mean, I don't think we'll ever know the true price of what it's going for, or how much it was initially going to piff for, because it did start at 350, then it went to 300, then it went back to 350. So I think it's around that margin, to be fair. I don't think we'll ever know the true sum. Paul Jackson says we won't score in the next 3 games. That's a distinct possibility. And Sav, you mentioned that you can't see where our next goal's coming from.
Yeah, no, I just can't. We have no ability to, you know, Wilson's feeding off of scraps, in my opinion. You get someone to shovel it up, long ball, and you could visibly see it during the Arsenal game, how frustrated he was from the service that he just wasn't getting. And I don't know who you'd play now, because the problem is even our sort of half decent players just can't be asked anymore, and I think that's half the problem that's going on. Like, I just can't think of any set of sort of positive players that you could put
definitely.
in that would be able to play like that.
I would probably give Andy Carroll a shot. If we were going two up front, I'd play Andy Carroll with Wilson, simply because of how fast thinking Callum Wilson is in the penalty area. If we get crosses into the box, which is again a problem, but if we did, then Andy Carroll is the perfect man you'd want to win headers, because Callum Wilson seems to have this knack of knowing where the ball's going to go. I know he's missed chances recently, but his confidence is going to be down because of what's going on around him. Like you say, he gets the ball and he looks up and there's nobody there to help him. The guy is getting frustrated by the minute. He clearly showed frustration at Sheffield United when he was giving niggly fouls away, and then he was booting the ball into the stands. It's got to be horrible when you've been brought in to score goals, but you're not getting any ammunition. Geordie says, would you like to see Shah get a new contract at the club? Well, that's basically for you, Sav.
Oh, 100%. I got FIFA, and the first thing I did was give him a nice long extension on his contract. I got him in the office. I was like, come on. And so I would 100%, he would be staying on.
Yeah, I saw the picture that you put on your Twitter feed when he was when he had a sore backside when he got injured. I did actually think, because obviously I watched as much as the ladies' night as I can, and it's good banter on there. And I know that from past viewings of the show, I knew what you were like with Fabian Schär. When he was down injured, you were the first person I thought of, thinking, oh my God, she'll have fallen off her seat here. She'll have passed out, saying that.
My Twitter blew up. My phone
I thought it would,
mental.
yeah. I had a feeling it would. Peter, would you keep Schär?
Do you know what? I actually would keep him on. I actually would.
Yeah, I think he's a good player. I just think he needs a bit of motivation, and I think he'd probably get that from a manager change. He clearly, from what he said, you alluded to his interview before, Sav, about him, getting quite passionate about the defeat when he was interviewed, and he clearly was aiming that at management. I have no doubt about that. But half of me thought, oh, is that because he wants away? But then the other half said, well, hang on a minute. You've got to remember that this guy has been here for a while now. Maybe he actually has gone a bit backwards, like quite a few of our players have gone backwards under Steve Bruce. This man could be the reason that so many players are A, unhappy, or B, have gone backwards in form. I mean, Sean Longstaff, for one, the players just can't be happy with this backwards football we're playing. Paul Jackson says, especially with the card horse Joe Linton playing. I know Peter's thoughts on Joe Linton, Sav. What's yours?
Well, I don't like to be too horrible about him, because I know he gets an awful lot of stick, and I really do.
So we know what's coming here. Go on.
But I don't see sometimes what he brings. The only good thing I will say about him, if I want to put a positive in, is he's quite solid and very rarely injured. I do think there's something in his contracts that he's got to start now on every. If he's fit, he's got to start.
Definitely.
I find that I don't know why he's still got that number 9 on his back. I would have just given that to Wilson and just got. I think sometimes maybe that is sort of overwhelming a little bit. I'm not giving any excuses for how he plays, but I just think I'd take that off him and take that stress off him for a start. I don't know where you'd put him. He's not very fast.
That's an understatement as well. I think when you say he doesn't get injured much, that's because he doesn't move very much. I mean, to get injured, you have to actually run. I mean, I agree. We've said this many, many times, and I've said it in my other videos, that I'm 100% certain that something is in his contract saying he has to play a certain amount of Premier League games. We know that goes on with a lot of players' contracts, so it may have gone on with Joe Linton's, but somebody has made an awful lot of money from that Joe Linton transfer without a shadow of a doubt.
There was a rumour as well going around about apparently he's got the same agent as ASM, and that when ASM re-signed his new contract, that there may have been something in that. That was what I was reading on Twitter anyway.
Yeah. Brian, thanks very much for your comment there. Great stuff again. Thank you. Peter, Joe Linton simply can't be involved on Saturday, surely.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, I cannot just persist watching this lad underperform every time.
Yeah.
My word, it's so depressing to watch from him. He's very slow. His touch is awful. And his shots I've seen are very tame a lot of the time as well. That
I
is
mean,
the
he
problem.
scored that cracking goal against Morecambe, didn't he? And then we all started saying, well, is that his level? Has he found his level? Is a League Two his level? Because I truly don't believe that he's a Premier League footballer. And, I'm not on about his how much we paid for him or anything like that. I'm talking about the lad's ability. Nothing personal against him. I just think his football brain and feet don't work as quickly as they should for a Premier League footballer, and maybe is more well suited to football in France or Germany, where we know the game's not as fast. They get more time on the ball, and Joe Linton just doesn't seem to have a clue when he gets the ball. He just freezes. Action 360 says, I agree, fans would have been in the games. It would have been toxic, as you say, and Bruce would have been sacked. Yeah, reminisce and think about that and just think that's another reason to blame COVID. Paul Jackson, all three will walk. I take it you're talking about the three coaches, Bruce, Clements, and Agnew with that one. Daniel Ford, if Mike Ashley had some bullocks, then he would have sacked Steve Bruce. Like I say, I just think he's taking a risk, and it's a risk that he shouldn't really be taking given the experience he had with McLaren. We should let the young kids give it a go and let them show how professional, how it's done. That's a good point, Sav. Well, both of you actually. We'll start with Sav. I mean, Anderson came on in the FA Cup, performed very well, looked like a decent young player with his head screwed on, did the right things, and then Bruce only gives him 3 minutes against Arsenal in the Premier League. Would you be sort of looking at maybe bringing a few youngsters in to try and get some results?
Do you know, I said this the other night, and I'm not saying it's real life because I know it's not, but when I'm on FIFA, if they start underperforming in the first team, I shove them in the reserves and then bring someone else out and then put them on. And then they're soon messaging me going, oh, can I play now? I'm going to do really well. And you're like, oh, all right, you can come back now.
Yeah.
But I think that's maybe the shake-up that they need, because I think some of them are way too comfortable with getting started, like Shelby, for me, I don't even know what he brings sometimes. I mean, against Arsenal, he couldn't even string a pass together half the time. Sean Longstaff, he's another one. And I think that something has got to happen. And I do think, start the youngsters, try and mix it up a little bit, because it's not working as it is. And he keeps throwing the same, nigh on the same squad out, albeit with slightly different tactics, with false tens and all sorts, whatever he's thinking of. But, I think that something's got to happen, or he'll be sacked. That's just how it is now. Yeah,
definitely. Peter, I mean, I know you were impressed with Anderson, but is there any others that you'd bring through?
Oh, that's a very good question. Lewis Casp, maybe, fullback. I know he's just signed
a new contract today, hasn't he? Yeah.
Jack Young, another one. I'm not sure if he still went out on loan. Possibly would have a look at him.
Mm-hmm.
Give these youngsters a chance. Yeah. Surely all of them can't do any worse than a lot of the first-team players we've got in this squad this season.
Well, exactly. And it's like Sav says, it would give them a kick up the backside to say, right, I'm not frightened. This is where Steve Bruce is very different from a top-class manager, I think, because a top-class manager would say, right, you're not going to play. You'll sit on your backside. You won't play at all. And the players would soon get sick of it and not being included. I know a lot of them at the minute are probably glad they're not included, judging by the way they're playing. But, these top-class or top earners, shall I say, not top-class players, need to actually earn the money, because they're clearly not doing it. Geordie says, Bruce did the same last season and was playing Bentaleb ahead of Matty when he was being linked with a free move to Udinese. I know. And the young lad Watts as well, who's now at Plymouth on loan, he should have been given a few games at the end of the season. He brought him on, I think, for the last game for the second half.
Yeah.
And for me, he's sent him out on loan. Fair enough. That'll probably do the kids. I mean, apparently he's doing really well down there as well. But I'd just like to see more youngsters in. Tom Dixon said, would you start Galen Wilson up front on Saturday, Sav?
Well, Steve Bruce seems to be allergic to Dwight Gale at the moment, doesn't he? So I can't see it happening. No, I think I'm with you. I would put Andy Carroll up front. The only problem is he can't finish the ball at all. But I think as having him in the air he'd be quite handy. And as Steve Bruce doesn't seem to want to play Gale at the moment, I just can't foresee that happening.
Yeah, I just think Andy Carroll causes so many problems. I think defenders worry about him, and that, you know, maybe that would take the pressure off Callum a little bit to find more space. You know, if they're all focused on Andy Carroll when crosses come into the box, you know, the ball can fall anywhere. And normally, from what I've seen of Callum Wilson, both here and at Bournemouth, you know, he's always on the end of loose balls in the penalty area. He seems to know where they're going to be. So, you know, but Dwight Gale, like I said before, he's out of contract in the summer. I don't know whether Steve Bruce is clamping down with these players who are heading out the door, really. Geordie says, seen a few say that they would like to see Dubravka back on Saturday instead of Darlow, given his experience. Oh, it's a tough one because I think Darlow is a absolute quality goalkeeper, Dubravka, but I think Darlow's done nothing wrong to be dropped. That's the thing. I mean, fair enough, he was making lots of mistakes. I mean, Peter Sav alluded to it earlier. You know, he didn't have his best game at Arsenal with his distribution, and he looked a little bit nervous. I remember once in the first half, he completely miskicked the ball and it went for a corner. What do you think? Would you start Dubravka?
I would still go with Darlow at this moment of time. Again, Darlow's just not really put a foot wrong.
Yeah,
half the time this season. So
yeah,
I don't mind sticking with Darlow still at the moment of time.
Safa, would you go for?
See, I'm a bit ruthless. I'd have Dubravka back just because, you know, it's not because of Darlow's mistakes at Arsenal.
Yeah.
You know, everyone has a crap match and they're not playing up to, you know, and he has been solid for us all season. And I don't think it's fair. I think we've got two absolute quality goalkeepers and it's unfortunate for Darlow. But we completely lack leadership on that pitch. And one person who you can always hear shouting from the back is Dubravka.
Yeah.
And you don't get that so much with Darlow. And I think because, you know, I don't understand why Lascelles has still got the captain's armband. I don't think he's leading. I think we need someone on that pitch who is leading from the back. And I think that is one job that he can actually do. And I think, you know, we are missing that. And so because of that, I would pick Dubravka over Darlow.
It's a good shout. It's a good shout. I mean, it's got to come to the crunch shortly where we start thinking, right, you know, our very, very best players need to be in that team. And obviously leadership is something we've all spoke about before, the lack of leadership on the pitch, because I don't think Lascelles is a captain in a million years. He's not playing well enough to be captain and setting an example. I think if there was any captain in that team right now, it's Isaac Hayden. For me, his professionalism on and off the pitch is the sign of a leader. He does bollock them on the pitch. He does shout a lot. But like you say, Dubravka does it a lot when he's certainly defending corners, things like that, or the back four passing it between them. He's always vocal, saying if there's men coming or if they've got time on the ball. I don't see that with Darlow. But then again, you know, Darlow's performed wonderfully well this season and he hasn't put a foot wrong. So it's very difficult to. But I do think I agree with you, Stav. I think we've got two of the best goalkeepers in England, quite frankly. But I think it may come to the crunch where Dubravka comes back in and Darlow finds another club because, you know, Darlow, after the season he's had, is going to be in demand without a doubt. I mean, Leeds fans tell me they'd love to have Darlow there. Arsenal fans the other day were actually telling me that they would love to have Darlow. So, you know, he has made a big name for himself this season, which is good for him, really. Geordie says, Rafa approached the club last time, and if Bruce is sacked, we will not see a replacement who is in the same league as Rafa. We know that. We shopping in bargain basement managers now. Nobody of the esteem of you know, Rafa Benitez is going to want the job. Ben LD says, who do you generally see us beating this season? I've lost hope. I've lost all hope, to be honest. I think a lot of us have lost all hope, Peter.
Yeah, massively. Where is the next one going to come from? I don't know. When we're playing this dross dinosaur football.
It's absolutely awful. Sav, I know you've just got a new puppy today, so you were going to come on for an hour. So do you want to go and see to your pup now?
If that's all right, yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for asking me.
No problem. You can catch Sav on Twitter. It's at Sav Mondo, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Do you have a YouTube channel, Sav?
Not yet, but I'm setting one up.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll keep our eye out for that. But do give Sav a follow on Twitter. There's always some good banter. And she's also on Ladies' Night with Steve Wraith on NUFC Matters What time is that on a Monday night, Sav?
7:30 on a Monday
7:30
night.
on a Monday, right. So thank you very much, Sav. I really appreciate you coming on, and good luck with the pub.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. So that was Sav. It is, like I say, you can catch her on NUFC Matters. Clashes with us a little bit on a Monday night, though, Peter.
Yeah.
We might have to push our program back a bit. So let's have a look at a few more comments. Paul Jackson says, I can also see Dubravka going. If he doesn't get back in the side, he wants first-team football, then yes, he will. I have no doubt about that. Tom Dixon says, watching Aston Villa last night, they weren't that good against Man City. You've got to remember, though, that Aston Villa haven't played for 3 weeks because of their COVID outbreak. They've been out of action for quite some time. And I actually thought they did okay. I thought that offside goal that was given for Manchester City was dodgy as hell. I mean, I didn't even know about that rule, to be honest, Peter.
I was thinking it shouldn't have counted at first, but I've looked back at it and I think that was actually the correct decision to give.
Yeah. It's
seen it back.
It's stupid because nobody seems to know the offside rule anymore. There's that many different interpretations.
Tricky.
Number 9, Talk Iceman. Good evening, mate. Oi, get Sav's new dog up front. You know what it is? I'd play anybody up front the minute they can score goals. We need goals desperately. Absolutely desperately. Geordie says, if Ashley and Charlie had any sense, they would sack Bruce after the Villa match if we don't win and have someone like Steve Harper in the dugout for Leeds until they can bring Howard Pearson in. I agree with that. I think, I know James said on Monday, Peter, that, he would get rid of, I think he said he'd get rid of Harper as well, get the whole sort of coaching staff out. I'm not sure about Steve Harper. I think if somebody came in like Pearson and maybe another one like Lee Clark alongside Pearson and keep Steve Harper there, have some real sort of Newcastle United blood in there, you know what I mean, that would possibly just lift the spirits for everybody.
Yeah, I think something like that could definitely work. It possibly could work. Yeah,
I mean, Steve Watson was mentioned on Monday night, but I think for me, if we were going to bring an ex-player who, Lee Clark alongside Nigel Pearson for me would be something that would lift spirits. Paul McCarthy, good evening. He says, Eddie Howe has told Ashley what he wants and has asked progress questions by all accounts. Have you guys heard this too?
Yeah, I think that was in the Chronicle, something like that.
Yeah.
Funny question is, Eddie Howe, if you do come, are you seriously going to get exactly what you majority want?
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Somebody, a prospective manager talking to an owner saying, right, this is what I want when I come in, and the owner going, right, okay. But Mike Ashley's case is, you agree one thing with Mike Ashley, and 2 months later he turns the tide and said, no, I didn't agree to that, and that's why he's upset so many managers in the past. And Eddie Howe will speak to other managers and who've worked under Ashley. There's no doubt about it. And yeah, Tom Dixon, great to see Kieron Clark getting a new deal. Hopefully, a few more will follow him. Yeah, we spoke about this at the start of the show. I think bringing Kieron Clark in for an extra 2 years is great. I mean, Clark for me, he's been one of my favourite players this season. I've always rated him, to be honest, Peter. I've always rated him.
I've rated him as well. He's very solid on his game, massively. And
very rarely puts a foot wrong. He's one of them players that goes through a game and doesn't get noticed because he's so good. He just does what he has to do, wins the ball, moves it on, and gets on with it. And he's also a decent goal scorer. I think you said that. You did your video about
a lot.
Yeah,
all of our defenders. He's got 11 goals in total.
It's incredible, really, when you think about it. But he is very good in the air and at both ends. Paul Jackson, we are going back. We are going to back here on Saturday after the Villa game, seeing how shit we played. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm just hoping that I can do a review video, and I'm sure you feel the same, Pete. When we can just do a positive video, and we've come away with something, and we've performed really well, and we don't have to get angry because I'm sick of getting angry. But I can't help it. When I see my team get beat and thoroughly thumped, I get angry because Newcastle is our passion, and it's it'd just be nice to sit here and say, oh, what a game that was. Brilliant performances from such and such, or brilliant goals. And we've come away with 3 points and we performed brilliantly, but you just can't see it happening. And that's the biggest shame of all, really.
That's the thing, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sean Mullen, good evening. Jacob Murphy needs to be played more and Jamal Lewis is not cutting the mustard. I've said on my preview of the game for Villa that I would play Jacob Murphy on the right-hand side. I think he doesn't get the chances that he deserves. I think he's a brilliant crosser of the ball. He doesn't have to beat a man. And I'd just love to see him given a run of games. It's no point, Peter, putting Jacob Murphy in for 2 or 3 games and then dropping him again. You know, players need a run in the side, get up to speed and just get the confidence built up that way.
Exactly. I've been when Jacob Murphy's played this season, he's done very well. He's been certainly crossing the ball into the box lately, and I want to see this lad more chances. I think the 2 loan spells have done him good. Mm-hmm. Now is the chance to see Bruce give more of a chance. More of a chance for him to step up, he can certainly do it. Yeah, I think massively. Totally, but but I just don't know why. Instead, he puts Miggy on the right, who's not a bloody winger.
No, I've said in my preview, so if you want to catch that, everybody, it's on my channel now. I just said basically that I want to see Miggy in the number 10 role on Saturday. Actually driving at if he's not going to go 4-4-2, I genuinely believe 4-2-3-1 is our best formation.
That formation will work.
Yeah, having Miggy as a number 10 and actually driving at the defenders from the middle of the park, it'll cause more problems. He's wasted out wide. I know he can play there, but playing there and being effective there are 2 different things.
That's the thing, and he's not a cross of the ball.
No, he's definitely not that. Jamal Lewis, I think we've all mentioned that he hasn't had the best of starts at Newcastle. I think defensively, he's prone to an error. He's not too bad going forward, which is why when we play wing backs, I don't mind him at wing back, but obviously in a back 4, I'd rather have Dummett there at the minute. And that's why I'd love to see Jetro come back, but whether that happens or not. Paul Jackson says the takeover is not happening. I'm not so sure about that, Paul. We'll put that on ice for now. Jason, I only started this as a joke for the first game of 2021, but let it sink in for a moment. We have still lost every game of 2021, yet in the eyes of Ashley and some clueless pundits, his job is still safe. I mean, he's right. I mean, 2021 has just started, but these defeats just drag on. And it's not so much the defeats as well, it's the lack of goals, Peter.
Yeah, massively. I mean, as I mentioned, Callum Wilson, top goal scorer with about 8. And then Jeff Hendrick, second with only 2 goals.
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute farce, to be honest. It's an absolute farce.
10 goals, more than 5?
Yeah, but it just proves the depth in this team that we haven't got when Jeff Hendrick is its second top goal scorer. Geordie says when City got their takeover, Mark Hughes was in charge of City. So hopefully if we do get Hughes, it proves to be a good omen. Yeah, I mean, we've said this, that the future is very foggy at the minute for Newcastle because we don't know what's happening with the takeover. Now, if a new manager does come in, it's going to be under the pretense that a takeover is going to happen and their job may not be safe after the takeover. Now, whether that involves, money in the new manager's contract to say, right, well, obviously you pay me off if the new owners come in and they don't want me as manager, then pay me off. But I think it was Sharky made a good point a couple of weeks ago when he said about bringing Pearson in, that, bring Pearson in, but and then tell him if a takeover happens, Pearson will still have a job at the club, whether it be a upstairs role or within the setup somewhere, he would still have a job, Peter.
Massively. I mean, you could look to have him as possibly assistant. I know he's been assistant at the club as well. He was with under Allardyce. Mm-hmm. Pretty sure he was. So, yeah.
He's got links with the club. It makes perfect sense to me, rather than probably Mark Hughes. Ryan Sweeney, hello all. Nice to see Sav on here. Different perspectives. Yeah, she's a great lass, good laugh, and she knows her football. Believe me. I mean, she talks very well about the club, very well about the players, and knows her stuff. Like many of them, she's had to face some horrible trolling on Twitter, which I find absolutely disgraceful. But she just punts them out and gets on with it. And she's very knowledgeable about Newcastle, put it that way. Action 360, please not Mark Hughes. I mean, we said this the other night, Peter. There's going to be fans, split with any manager that we bring in, really, and it's about thinking long term, or what the plans are. Is a manager going to be in, just replacing Steve Bruce short term, or will it be long term? If it's a short term thing, I mean, maybe Sav had a point before, when she said that maybe they're not sacking Steve Bruce because the takeover is close. You just don't know, do you?
That's the thing. I mean, it's so crazy around at this football club. Yeah. One thing happens and then it doesn't.
It's just like a massive non-stop roller coaster. Few more comments before the end of the show. Benitez was given 11 games exactly, and that's what we were saying. He was given such a short time to turn the club around and get us out of relegation. The damage that was done by McLaren was just impossible for Rafa to turn around in such a short time, which is why we just need something to happen to give the new manager an opportunity to A, lift the spirits, and B, play better football, Peter.
Oh, massively, yes. We need to get rid of this tactically and that manager out. This is probably one of the worst I've felt. Is being a new fan.
Without doubt. Totally agree. Jordy says, the stat that I find frightening is that without Wilson's goals this season, that we would be 18th in the Premier League. Yeah, it's common knowledge that, his goals have pretty much saved us from the relegation zone at the minute. And that is pretty dire when you look at it, because like you said, Peter, the next highest scorer is Jeff Hendrick with 2. We'd be absolutely in the mire. Coach Marv, good evening to you. It's frustrating to hear that all we want is great football. We want a plan and some desire. We applauded and celebrated the effort when we had a structured plan to hold Liverpool to a draw. You're right. I mean, we do. That's what we want to see. Yes, we want to see good football, but we also want to have a plan. We also want to see where the club is progressing. And that's what we don't have over the clubs like Aston Villa and, Everton to a certain degree, Leicester City, all these, so-called smaller teams that have just risen up, and because they've got good owners, they've got good plans, they've got good ambitions, and they put things in place, Peter, so the fans know where the club's going.
Massively, yeah. And you look at us. Since Mike Ashley, it feels like going down a waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see, as you mentioned, just these other clubs, smaller. Yeah. Even you've got clubs in like the Championship and League One with more ambition than what we have as well. It's just the ambition of this football club stinks. It's absolutely rotten and abysmal.
Brentford, for one, in the Championship. Brentford have they've just moved into a new stadium. They've got a fantastic setup down there, and hopefully they'll soon be in the Premier League, because we need, obviously, it'd be nice to see clubs like that in the Premier League rather than the same old bouncing back up and bouncing down again. It'd be nice to see a club like Brentford come up. Tom Dixon says, well, look at them. Fulham versus Burnley, Brighton versus Fulham, West Brom versus Fulham. If they win all of them 3 and we keep losing, we'll be in trouble like we are now. It's like we said before, Peter, if, clubs below us are going to start winning games, they will go on little mini runs where they pick up points and we are left in the doldrums again.
Exactly. That's why that's why you want to say to Mike Ashley, pull the trigger now on Bruce. Tell him, relieved of your duties. It's done. You've had enough.
Yep.
Kieron, it's only got to take, was it, about $1.5 million for him to pay off his contract if he was to sack?
Yeah, I heard that today as well. I mean, for Mike Ashley, that's like pennies, you know what I mean?
Pennies in football these days.
Yeah, I mean, to save the money that he's going to make from a takeover, to pay that to Bruce, I mean, 1.5 million to Mike Ashley, not being disrespectful, is like pulling a £20 note out his back pocket. The man has that much money. It's not going to be a big thing for him to pull the trigger. I just don't see why he's hanging on for so long. Geordie says, I would like to see Nigel Pearson short-term or Eddie Howe long-term. The problem is I don't see anybody coming long-term at the minute unless they have sort of 100% knowledge of what's happening with the takeover, because they won't want to come and then new owners come in and say, oh, thanks, but no thanks. You know what I mean? It would be a bit crazy for a new manager to do that. Coco the clown over Bruce at the minute, to be honest.
I like that one.
Do you know what? You kind of disagree with it, though. Carver is just Brucey. Well, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think Bruce is actually worse, and I never, ever thought I'd say that. Houghton, for me, he should have been given more of a chance, says Sean. Yeah, we talked about this the other night, Peter, with Chris Houghton. I don't think there's any chance in hell he would come back to work under Mike Ashley.
Oh, definitely not. No, I thought Chris Houghton was great up here. Got promoted. We're in a decent position in the league table.
Yeah.
And then we pulled the plug on him far too early.
Yeah.
And you could tell the fans loved him up here.
Oh, of course they did. But the fact is, he wouldn't come and work under Ashley again. And no manager that has worked under Ashley would actually come back. Maybe McLaren would, but we certainly don't want to go down that route. Action 360, Nigel Pearson would bring discipline and fighting spirit. Exactly, which is what we need. We will definitely lose, says Thomas. Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. Jason says, if Eddie Howe in, then have to act fast, as in now, because he's heavily linked with Celtic. And if he goes to Celtic and Mark Hughes goes to, for an example, to Cardiff, then, oh God, we have Pulis. I mean, that is the scary thing. You know, I mean, jobs are going to be will become available as the season goes on. You know, so that's another reason, Peter, why we shouldn't wait so long, because managers that we have on the shortlist will take up other jobs.
Will do, massively.
Geordie says, Liverpool 0, Burnley 0 at half time. Hopefully, second half, Liverpool can score a couple of goals. Do you know what? Liverpool are struggling at the minute for goals. I don't know what's happened down there. I mean, they're not this all-conquering goal-scoring side this season for some reason, which is very, very strange. Mason Armstrong, I honestly wonder what we do in training. Well, if you heard the comments from Richie Delat, the former Villa and Leicester player, he actually came out on Twitter and said that Steve Bruce's training sessions were like under nines, where he just throw the ball in the middle and say, right, lads, let's have a game. There was no structure to his training sessions or anything like that. Now, you know, obviously we don't know if that's true or not, but why would Richie Delat come out and say that? It's a bit strange for me. Geordie, how much is yeah. Unfortunately, Geordie, we don't have John with us tonight. He will be back on the with us with the four horsemen of the Toon on Monday night next week. And I'm pretty sure that will crop up yet again. I'm certainly not going to let him forget it. I'm trying to sort of see when he's on live on his channel, because I keep putting up. I'm just going to keep putting comments. Joe Linton 15 million with a laughing emoji, because, you know, bless him. I mean, John, that was a quality quote, and you know we all love John, and I'm sure he's got some more to come out with on Monday next week. But we're not going to let him forget that, Peter.
No, definitely not. No.
working as a secret agent for Joe Linton. Paul Chancellor says, get Farley for manager. This guy has the voice of some good managers.
Oh, Farley.
Yeah, he does some good Steve Bruce ones. Like, I've seen him a few times.
Yeah.
Paul Jackson, bollocks, he is a pile of shit. I take it he's talking about Mark Hughes. That's fair enough, mate. You've got your your opinion on Mark Hughes. You know, sometimes, you know, we just have to look at the best of a bad bunch at the minute. That's the situation we're in. We can't look at quality name managers because they just won't come. Joe Linton, yeah, we call him Slow Linton on here. Paul says, Paul, I agree. Thanks, mate. Paul, be personal. He is a load of crap.
Opinion.
I'm not sure who you're talking about, Paul, because it could be an array of a few people that we've talked about. It could be Joe Linton. It could be Mark Hughes. I think he's talking about Mark Hughes. Right, last few before we finish the show. Coach Marv, how concerned are you about the apparent poor youth structure? We don't appear to have a plethora of young guys coming through. Well, you know, this is my worry. I mean, the training grounds are shambles. The academy's not bringing the players through, or we don't know if they're bringing the players through because Steve Bruce won't give them a chance. You know, I mean, I know Sharky's been to he goes to a lot of under-23 games, so he probably knows a bit more. Have you been to some?
Yes, I have actually. I went to a canny few last season, actually.
So is there anybody that you think could come through, or do we have a good group of players coming through, or is there just one or two?
I think you could see a few. Another one I was going to pick 1 hour, which I didn't mention, and that's Ludwig Francelet. I don't know if you heard of him.
Yes, yeah, I have.
He looks I think he looked a beast at the back, actually, for the under-20s.
Yeah. He's been mentioned by a few journalists has been the next big thing to come through. But like I say, it's whether Steve Bruce gives these guys the opportunity, because unfortunately he doesn't.
No.
Nick says, we've seen what's taken too long to change things does before. We need more direction on the training ground before it's too late. Again, yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we're saying. I mean, Mike Ashley is really playing Russian roulette at the minute. I think we have a decent all-round set of good players that we should be safe with, and under new blood manager, we could get them to play. Yeah, I mean, we've always said, Peter, that we've got a good bunch of players there, and there's no reason why we can't get out of trouble. It's just the manager, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, no one wants to play dross football every week in, week out.
Yeah, well, Steve Bruce does. Tom Dixon says, why doesn't Bruce go for the 4-3-3 formation or the 3-4-3 formation? Then we might have a chance of climbing the table. Liverpool go with that formation. Liverpool have got the players to do it. However, I think if Steve Bruce ever plays a 3-4-3, it would change within 5 minutes to 5 at the back.
That's like a back five, pretty much.
Yeah. And that's the problem.
Then you can have the 2 wing backs.
Yeah,
that's just my concern about that formation.
That's exactly the problem, Peter, because we know that he goes defensive. So if teams would press us playing a 3-4-3, he would change it to 5 pretty much immediately. But it's a good shout, because it would be nice to see some sort of attacking formation like that. Kellen Watts has been great at Plymouth. Hopefully we see more of him in the future. Yeah, Jordy, we mentioned him before. Did you see his quote after the game the other night, Peter?
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head.
He basically came out and said that the win for Plymouth was for the Newcastle fans. To raise the spirits, because they beat Sunderland, obviously, at the stadium.
Yes, now I remember.
He basically dedicated the win to the Newcastle fans. That gives him legend status if he never plays for us again. Nick Seabright said, would 4-1-4-1 ever work? Maybe it would. It's given the player. He'd probably have to work on it again, Peter. But this is the thing: he doesn't work on any other formations, does he?
He doesn't.
Jason says the youth will do whatever it takes to get that chance to play, and will fight blood, sweat, and tears to keep playing. Unlike most of the first team that just want to walk into the starting 11. Exactly. There's far too many players at this club too comfortable, and the need to rocket up their arse. Talk Iceman says, problem with youth on our training, the facilities are a joke. Benitez had bits upgraded, but more sticking plasters over the cracks.
Yeah, it's paddling pools and wheelie bins we like to cool down in.
Yeah.
My word.
It's a shambles, isn't it? It's an absolute shambles. Tom Dixon says, do you think Darlow should stay in goal, or would you play Dubravka? We said this before. I think for me and Peter, we are happy to continue with Darlow, I think, aren't we? And Sav said earlier that she'd be ruthless and actually bring Dubravka back, but obviously it's all down to opinions. But when, you also have to think about bringing your absolute elite players in to get us out of the crap that we're in now. Anon says, mostly any formation under this manager will amount to the same sort of football. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think he's got it's one way or no way with Steve Bruce, Peter.
Exactly. It's just go defensive and just invite the pressure and take a massive beating out of it.
It's just see how you do, lads, isn't it? That's all he does. Send them out, see how you do, lads. I'm hoping Bruce will play some wingers this Saturday evening and not take Carroll off and bring a winger on like he did against Arsenal. I was foreman when he did that. Anon says Bruce could find a way to have 2-3-2-3 formation shown on the graphic before the start of the game, and by the time it was 10 minutes into the game, you'd have Almiron back on the 18-yard line alongside the rest. Exactly. That's just the way he is. Get Lee Clark and Steve Watson in temporary. I agree, Tom, with Lee Clark. I think he should come in alongside a Nigel Pearson kind of character. Otherwise, I think it'd be too much pressure on him just coming in on his own, Peter. If he came in by himself, too much pressure.
Yeah, that would be the thing.
It wouldn't be fair on him. Final couple now. Ryan says, get the team pissed before the game. That'll uplift the spirit and probably the score. I think the way it's going at the minute, most of the fans are drunk before the game. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Tom says, I'm 100% certain the takeover will happen. Well, let's just keep fingers crossed there. Mark Hughes can absolutely do one. Christ, not Mark Hughes, says Nick. Yeah. No, not Hughes. Okay. Colin Frew, Fraser on the left, Miggy number 10, Wilson up front, ASM on the right if he's not fit yet, Murphy with Hayden central defensive midfielder. I agree perfectly with that. That's basically what I've said in my preview, but I don't think ASM's fit. I don't think he's fit yet, which is a shame because we could really do him. Paul Jackson says, great show, lads, all the best. Thank you very much, Paul. Appreciate you joining in. Sean says, yep, great watch. Look forward to the next one, lads. Cheers, Sean. Thank you very much for obviously joining in. Thank you very much for all your comments. It's nice to have the interaction on the show because it obviously shows different opinions to talk about. Tom says, great show, lads. Thanks, Tom. It just shows everyone's got different opinions, and it's just good to talk about them and rather than certainly the way it is on social media with everyone sort of bitching and being nasty about it. At least we can come on here, people have opinions, we can talk about them. But Peter, thank you very much for your company again tonight.
Thank you very much indeed for having me.
If you want to watch Peter's channel, it is PD Proudlook. I'll put the link in the description. He does lots of previews, reviews, vlogs, things like that. Great channel. So I'll put the link below. Peter, when's your preview coming out for the game?
It'll be tomorrow.
So do check his channel out for that. Do subscribe to his channel if you haven't already. Peter, thanks very much, mate. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, man.
So that's it for tonight. Thank you very much to everyone that's joined in. Thank you to Peter for joining and for Sav for coming on for an hour. Really do appreciate that. Thank you very much for all your comments. It does mean a lot, seeing all your different opinions and different ways that you'd shape the team. Everybody's got their own opinion, haven't they? But unfortunately, the one man that has that job is not doing it very well at the moment. Very, very inept manager that we have at the club. If you are new to the channel and you've just picked this stream up or you're watching a rerun, please do subscribe. I'm on the way to 1,000. I really do want to grow this channel as big as I can possibly get it. Smash the like button because that does help. And in the meantime, thank you very, very much for joining in with the stream again tonight. Do check my preview out for the Villa game on Saturday. I will be reviewing that. I might even go live straight after the game. I'm not sure yet. But stay tuned to Twitter and I'll keep you all updated on there. But again, take care of yourselves in these awful times. Keep everyone safe, and I'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.
Be strong.